Good afternoon. Okay, we'll return our sessions. We'll start the third session of the Innovation Day series. It is devoted to actually territories, so innovation, creative resilience territories from multiple perspectives. And I will ask this panel to join me on the table. So we'll have Paulo Fernandes as the main speaker. We'll have with us also Yannick Lepage from Agif. We have David Almeida from REM. And we'll have online, unfortunately, we'll have online two colleagues also to open innovation challenge solution providers, Fernando Toledo and Martin Hoffman. So, Paulo, please, the stage is yours.
I'm a professor at the University of Portugal. Also, I collaborate with the Forest Life Collab. And my pitch, and thank you for the invitation. And my pitch, well, I was not sure about what subject should I focus on. So I decided to be a bit disruptive and try to forget technology and instead talk a bit about traditional ecological knowledge, which nowadays is kind of a worldwide grassroots movement. So people talk more and more about this, especially in North America, Australia, also Latin America. And it has a relevant role in fire management. So we can see it as an innovation. So for those who are not familiar with the concept, it can be defined simply as the accumulated knowledge of local communities in managing their environments. And of course, this is built over time, over generations. Of course, very often, these practices include using fire for many land management purposes, but because fire has an impact on vegetation, it will have an impact on wildfires, and so it can be a valuable tool in fire management. However, and in contrast with what we see elsewhere, the potential of I will now refer to it as PAP, the potential of PAP in fire management, in reducing fuel accumulation, fuel hazard, or fire risk, whatever you want to call it, is not considered, is disregarded, repressed, and by scientists, it's not a topic which usually deserves attention, so it's under research. And yet, it's easy to detect or to find remains of this traditional knowledge. Of course, most of this knowledge has been lost or eroded, but we can still find it in a way or another, especially in these mountains of the Iberian Peninsula, France, these oceanic influenced climates and environments, but also Italy and Greece and across southern Europe. And we know that these practices are still having an influence on the fire regime, not necessarily a good influence. Not sure if you can see it well, but you have a photo of one of these fires. What is relevant here is that this fire started during the night. Temperature was -6 degrees Celsius. So you really have to know something about fire to do this. You have to know that you will get out of bed in the middle of the night. You are starting a fire, and and this effort will result in an actual ignition and fire spread. So here you really can see this traditional knowledge being applied. But we have substantial gaps in the scientific understanding of these practices. We don't have much data on the impacts, on the effects of the fire regime associated with these traditional burns. So in terms of variation in season, fire behavior and fire intensity, the spatial heterogeneity in vegetation in time also created by these practices. And so very often we don't really know how people do it. So we don't, it's difficult to describe or associate mechanisms through which these low intensity fires are regulating ecosystem dynamics and functioning and maintaining fire landscapes which are resilient to fire. So in itself, studying these, it's already an innovation, a scientific innovation at least. But we know for sure that a number of ecosystem services are enhanced by these traditional practices. For example, supporting services. These fires create viral diversity, which means a mosaic, a memory in the landscape of previous fires that creates variation in vegetation, composition, structure, and so on in the landscape. And this increases biodiversity. It provides habitat for grazers and browsers, both domestic and wild, and then the animals that feed on them. It's important for flowering, so for pollination services. And in terms of regulating services, it decreases fire hazard because it reduces fuels and subsequently it will mitigate the spread and intensity of wildfires. It's important to regulate the carbon cycle, which in part is a side effect of reducing biomass. It prevents erosion, it maintains water quality. So all these we know because of previous work. Also provisioning services mainly for the local communities or the land users, pastures, plants for medicine, for food, wood and biomass production, of course. And finally, and we often neglect these cultural services, so cultural heritage, maintaining these cultural landscapes, and it has value or attracts recreation and enhances aesthetic value, and so there are a number of touristic activities that can be favored by these practices. This is just some photos illustrating these kinds of landscapes in Portugal, Spain, France. Of course, usually they are open landscapes, shrubland or grassland dominated landscapes. It can have some forest component, usually open forests, especially of conifers, but also of oaks. So these are just illustration of some places where these practices mark the landscape. In particular, this place that we studied in northwestern Portugal, you have 3 maps of fire frequency, so the number of times it burned since 2001. The first one are these burns in autumn, from autumn to spring, which are not even documented officially. So all these areas you see on the first map officially are not included in Portuguese statistics of fires. And they are not even included partially perhaps in the maps, but not in the lists of fires. And then you see on the side fires or wildfires in autumn, spring, and finally the last map, wildfires in summer. So this area clearly has a benign fire regime. So most of the fire is outside the typical fire season, very small fires that create the patch mosaic that I mentioned before. So how can we innovate fire management through TAT rather than through tech? So it's a nice wordplay. So it's low tech, it's high impact, it's proactive, it's based on local knowledge, and it can be adaptable to environmental change because it depends on local experience, and people learn with their experience and along the process. Of course, it will benefit from synergies with scientific research. So science will provide models, data, understanding the mechanisms, and so on. It will contribute to refine these practices, to adapt them for future conditions, for different purposes, in general, making it more sustainable. It's based on observation done and experience of local people, so it's highly adaptive. And here, technology, of course, has its role and can supplement all this. And if you have a community which is involved, you will automatically increase land stewardship, the quality and the intensity, and many low knowledge transfer activities, both more formal in the form of training or between generations. And finally, if we integrate this knowledge with institutional procedures and fire management, and for that we need to have a policy, a framework, and legal framework. For Portugal, we already have a bit, France also, Spain locally, so we already have some support, even if it's sometimes unclear or not very thorough. And so to conclude, this is a way to move fire management beyond those purely technical solutions. And if we integrate TAT in fire management, we have a nature-based fire smart. These two expressions are very current or common nowadays, and holistic approach. And we will be addressing both the fire problem, but all the dimensions, ecological, cultural, social, around it. And so we expect to have more resilient, sustainable ecosystems, environments, and give some empowerment to these local communities. So in the end, managing fire risk, but simultaneously maintaining ecosystem services, ecosystem integrity, and preserving these landscapes which are valuable by blending all that we know, both from scientific sources, from traditional practices, and building the policies needed for all these to go on or to work. And I take the opportunity to publicize this new association created very recently, which exactly promotes or has the idea of expanding and promoting these practices. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Paul, for your presentation and for giving us the insightful topic. We'll start with have with us here the operator from it's energy company, and actually it's one of the pilot winners of this power campaign. Sorry.
Thank you, Brigitte. So, as Brigitte was saying, my name is David Almeida. I'm from Louvain. VAN is the National Integrated Transmission System Operator, both for energy and for gas. We have over 35,000 hectares of right-of-way, which are under our management, 66% of which are in forest areas. So the forest areas they are in Portugal, they are exposed to wildfires. So we have each fire season an average of 5,000 fires detected in our infrastructures. Basically through all of our network, and we have had the record of more than 195 occurrences registered in a single day in the 13th of July 2022. So to tackle this issue of a lot of ignitions near our infrastructures, the first thing that was developed in 2017 was a forest fire alert system connected with our National Authority for Civil Protection. Basically, we had a dashboard where all of the occurrences detected by civil protection were loaded. All of those that were under 5 kilometers from our infrastructure, they generated a notification, and those that were under 2 kilometers were sent an SMS to the people in charge of that infrastructure. So this was progress, but there are still some issues. So we had a high volume of alert, which generated a lot of noise, and without information of how the fire is behaving, so only the point of ignition, not where the fire is at and if it poses danger, it still brought some difficulties to the process. So within the scope of the replant agenda, we did an improvement to our systems. We installed 8 monitoring systems that are detecting wildfire and gathering other information, not only the detection of wildfires. And we developed a decision support system. This project was done in collaboration with Alai from University of Coimbra. We developed a decision support system, basically a geographic portal in which the ignitions were loaded, both from our cameras and from civil protection. We called a fire simulation service from EM Fire Simulator from University of Coimbra. So it predicted the fire 5 hours from the point where we are now, and it showed us where and when our infrastructures may be impacted. So to reduce the number of alarms, because most of the alarms do not pose danger to the infrastructures, and we want to know which ones are really may impact the infrastructures, where, when, and even fires that may start beyond the 5 kilometer buffer. So within the scope of the replant agenda, we are doing the scale up of our replant solution. We will be installing more 80 infrastructure monitoring and fire detection systems. We want to further develop our decision support system, so both integrating other entities, other infrastructures to receive the alerts that we are generating, that we are receiving, also provided to other entities, integrate other services which are already done by the EM Fire Simulator, and also research from the state-of-the-art technology, what else can we bring to this? We are creating a business model to provide this service to other entities, and we are building a center which will manage these systems, both the detection and the alerts. So within the scope of the Open Innovation Challenge, we made a proposal to integrate the living labs, let's say, as our customers to our services, to receive alerts, to serve as a proof of concept of our system, to further develop it, and to make adjustments so that when we have actually a business model, we have it perfect, and also have to help integrate what is being done in the Portuguese Living Labs to help protect it with our technology. So basically, these are the features that we want to test: fire behavior modeling, fire spread intersection, and the automatic alert system that sends the information of what was simulated, what time, when will be impacted to other entities. So that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, David Almeida, for your presentation. It's very interesting. We have now another OEC winner for a demonstration test, our colleague Yannick Lepage from Agif. You need to, yes, no
Yeah.
point.
Good afternoon, everybody, and thanks for being here. So yeah, I'm Yannick, and I will present this project of using array belief maps to promote knowledge, engagement, and situational awareness in fire landscapes. So what is a raised relief maps? Maybe not everyone has seen one before. In some countries they're popular, but not everywhere. So this is one. It's not a digital, it's actually a physical map that you can touch, that you can hang. And it has the third dimension so that you can explore the topography and get a good and clear view of the topography of the landscape. And here I have a video of the making of a raised relief map, in that case of the city of Lisbon. So the map is first printed on a sheet of vinyl, normal in 2D, which is then heated up, and then with vacuum it's formed on a topographic model of the city that is placed below the map. So let me try to display it. Click. Yeah. Right. And then when it cools down, you can take it out and it maintains its shape. And so, so yeah, at the end, you really get a good sense of the topography. And so that's the idea of the project, to rise above the landscape and to explore the topographic, ecological, socioeconomical patterns of that region. And the hypothesis is that it could be an effective way to promote knowledge, engagement, and awareness in fire landscapes. First, because those maps are pretty appealing and intuitive. In my experience, everybody is drawn to these maps, and then they start exploring them in details, locating places they know, retracing a hike they did, and observing how ridges, valleys, rivers, communities, and any features of the landscapes are organized. And then I think they're pretty good to create important narratives about a given region that everybody can understand, and that show the dynamics at play in that landscape. And so I have here a short example to illustrate that narrative in Sintra, which is a natural park close to Lisbon. And so the first map here is about the microclimates, which are due to the proximity to the ocean, the topography. There's a small mountain in the middle, and the dominant winds from the north. And the color represents the presence of cloudy or foggy days in the year. And so there's quite frequent fog, especially in those darker areas in the mountains, even in summer. And the trees there actually can catch this fog and rain it down on the soil below. It's called precipitation. And it can be several times more water than the annual rainfall. So it's a substantial water input, and that sustains, as you can see on the second map, which is about the vegetation, a very lush and dense vegetation here, there on the mountains. And so in terms of fire risk, that means we have a lot of fuel, and generally the moisture content is high enough year round, even in the summer, so that large fires do not develop. But once every few years, we get 1 or 2 weeks of dry, unusually dry and hot weather, and there we can have a fire that could burn the whole natural park. But in a normal year, fire hazard is higher here in the northern. Oh, you don't see the pointer. In the southern side of the mountain, because of there is still substantial fuel, but it's also a drier microclimate there. So that's the kind of thing you can explain pretty well with those maps. And they're in the atrium if you're interested to see more. And yeah, I'd be happy to discuss how they could be used for a variety of applications and target audience, in particular about wildfires. And I've just listed a few here, but there's other ideas potentially. And thank you.
Thank you, Yannick, for bringing this interesting approach to the resilient landscapes and communities. We'll have now two pictures that from Fernando Polido, University of Extremadura. It's also a pilot winner of this Open Innovation Call. And we'll also have Martin Hoffman, that is also a demonstration test winner. Good afternoon, Fernando. How are you? Nice to see you. I will give you the floor. It's Fernando Polido from University of Extremadura. It's one of our demonstration, pilot winners, and you present the Mosaico as innovative solution. Okay. So if you don't mind, Fernando, please share your screen. Fernando, we are not able to hear you. Are you muted?
No.
Well, if you have also Martin, we can shift the presentations and. Can you try it again, please? Sorry. Yeah, it's okay. Sorry. Yeah, now it's okay. We are hearing you. Me? No? Sorry, Fernando. Can you say some words to see if we have everything set now?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
So,
You are.
should I share the screen?
Okay, yes, sorry for everyone. You are now with us inside the room.
So, should I
Yes.
share the screen?
Yes, please,
Okay.
go ahead.
Yes.
The floor is yours.
For me, okay, thank you. Can you see it?
You need to open we are seeing a set of files, but not the presentation yet.
I am already sharing my presentation.
No, you are sharing another screen. Yes?
It's okay now?
It's perfect.
Okay. I now using the full screen mode. I am trying. Okay. Anyway, thank you very much to the organization, and of course I want to apologize for not being able to be with you there because I suffered a small accident a couple of days ago, and so I also want to thank Daniela and Brigitte for their support in the last few days. I am working at the University of Extremadura in central western Spain, very close to Portugal, and of course we also are cooperating with people in central Portugal in the area I am going to present. I'm going to talk about a long-term initiative. It's not only a small project; it's a very long-term initiative that we have been working on in the last 8 or 9 years. It is called Mosaico. And Mosaico basically is a toolkit for engaging local land managers in proactive fire prevention. This is funded by the government of Extremadura and also with funds from the European Union, which are obtained by the University of Extremadura. Do you hear me?
We are reading perfectly. Sorry, running
Okay,
from the
but
table until the micro.
Then I will continue. Well, several authors have recently defined wildfires as a social pathology, and I of course agree, because when we have very big fires, usually it's because there is a syndrome, there is a number of shared problems in the territory that lead to this kind of highly flammable landscape.
Sorry, Fernando.
Yes?
We are in the same slide with your bio. I don't know if you are moved for another slide or not.
Yes, I am moving to another one. I am in the second one. I will start again. Can you see the new one?
No, we're still in the same. Your
The
first.
same,
Yes.
the first one?
Yes.
Well, I don't know why, because I am seeing the second and third one.
Just a minute. It's my. We'll try. We have Martin Hoffman with us also, so we'll try to have his presentation first, and we'll return to you, Fernando. Okay?
Thank you.
If you don't mind,
Thank
if
you.
you don't mind to stay online with us, okay? So Martin.
Yes, of course.
Okay, thank you. Gracias. Muchas gracias. Hey, Martin. Hi, good afternoon.
Hi there.
Martin is our, should be our last picture for today. It's also demonstration winner of this Open Innovation campaign. Please share your screen with us to see if you are lucky.
Well, I hope it works, so you should be seeing my screen now.
Yes.
Yeah, so thank you very much for inviting us and for inviting us over to the demonstration in the framework of this innovation challenge. We're really very much looking forward to that next year. To give you a bit of a background on who we are a bunch of firefighters with several years of wildland fires. Most of the incidents that we have been assigned on was in Greece, and it is out of the several observations that we made regularly during those fires that we started the company with the aim of finding ways out of the crisis that we see. And so the largest fire in Attica this year, so the region with Athens as the main capital, was the one that you see, the burn scar that you see on the right, on the image on the right. It was a fire that was strongly pushed by winds, and the fire that managed to enter the northern neighborhoods of Athens. What is still remarkable is that it took this fire over 8 hours to reach those neighborhoods, and the observation that we see here again, as in all those years that we've been working in Greece, is that those communities, although they are in a wildfire-prone area, are completely unprepared to such a fire. There is nothing that local inhabitants can do when the fire is approaching, and there is very little prevention that has been done before the fire season. And so we believe this is the combination of problem that we should be looking into. And so this is what we are working on. So if we are looking at a community, this is a typical example of a wildland urban interface. There's several natural fuel breaks here, and we believe that combining best practices and innovative fire protection technology, we can massively advance the protection of such communities as a whole. And so as an example of best practices, there's the concept of defensible space. So essentially creating space around an asset where you have to fulfill certain criteria in terms of vegetation density to make it easier for firefighters to work and to increase the probability of your asset to survive. We see first countries that are implementing these defensible spaces now, even in a law text. And the feedback that we get from Greece, that has issued a new law this year, is that it is very counterintuitive to know where this defensible space starts and stops and what the criteria are. And so we believe that making this more accessible to everyone will already be a very good first step for asset owners to get prepared. And so what we built, and this is a website that you can go and visit, defensiblespaceviewer.com, where you can look at your assets and visualize the defensible space that you should build around your assets. And so then we can go through a list of criteria in terms of building materials, in terms of access, and in terms of vegetation that you need to fulfill. We go through these and we can then help the asset owner take the right steps to reduce risk. Now, this is manageable on an asset level. It is trickier to implement on a communal level and still doable, but we believe that we can add another layer of safety when we're looking at the way the fire services are currently approaching this problem. So currently, if a fire were to approach this community, so the blue dots are the houses in the lower section of the image. If a fire were to approach this community from the top, from the north, you would usually see fire resources rushing towards the fire and very little tools that have been designed to protect a fire that is still relatively far away. And so this is what we want to change. There's a handful of criteria that we've defined before setting out to work on this. One is that we're looking at a communal level, so a relatively large perimeter. So definitely more than 500 meters of action. And we need to work very efficiently with water because in Southern Europe typically, or even continental Europe, we see droughts now during the summer. And we want autonomous operations so that we do not need to expose firefighters to the flames. And so what we came up with is essentially a line of hose that is fitted with mist nozzles, and that once it's set up, creates an environment in which the fire cannot progress. And so we've been on roadshows with this approach in Portugal, in Germany, and in Greece. As you can see, we have been using it in Portugal during controlled burns to verify the workings of such a system. And so the way we believe we could use this system is by placing it along already established strategic places such as roads and fuel breaks to make them even more of an obstacle for a fire. And so this is easily scalable and it is highly resource efficient. The way we know that this is resource efficient is because we've tested it extensively with the University of Coimbra. So typically the tests would look like this. We have a plot. We have a zone, so the upper third of the plot that we want to protect. We build our system in there. We take the water from the fire truck from the local fire service, and then we light a fire. We verify, we measure the intensity of the fire, and then we look at what the critical amount of water is that we dispensed and verify whether the fire jumps the system or not. And so to give you an example, this fire truck is equipped with roughly 4,000 liters of water that would have been enough to cover a kilometer in distance and to effectively contain the fire from that you see the image, which is a fire line intensity of 2,500 kilowatts per meter, so way above what we can currently fight from the ground. So think of this as a system that can be re-installed in a container at strategic locations around communities, around critical infrastructure, and then deployed maybe an hour before the fire actually gets there. You turn on the pump and you can leave it running and leave. And so this is really one of the tools that we believe is currently missing in the toolbox that we have to protect assets. And so as a last slide, so we're obviously very enthusiastic about the demonstration that we will carry out next year in Gran Canaria. We will most probably be back in Portugal during controlled burns again. And so if there is in the audience anybody who is interested in seeing this system working to protect the community, to protect critical infrastructure, so I don't know, hospitals, energy infrastructure, or even tourism assets when it comes to hotels and camping sites, we'd be more than happy to arrange a meeting. Same for the software that we have. If this is something that you're interested in if you're looking to learn more about the risk exposure of your assets, please don't hesitate to send me an email, and I'd be happy to tell you more. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you much. Thank you for your insightful presentation. We'll go back to Fernando. We have a solution. Daniela, Fernando, if you don't mind, we'll guide Daniela through the slide. Okay?
Okay. Next one, please. Next one. Yes, I was talking about the social pathology of large wildfires. In this kind of regions where large fires usually occur, there is a syndrome, there is a number of common situations regarding the loss of population, the declining agricultural, livestock and forestry activities, and so on. So we can only, in the next slide, please. We can only combat this situation not only by using the standard tools like the one that you can see in the picture. There are a number of studies that establish that show that there is an increase in the impact of fire despite a continuous increase in the investment in suppression capacity, and because of that, I think we should, in addition, use complementary measures that I will show in the next slide. Next one, please. Yes, there are a number of neglected tools that are linked to the local land management. Here, for example, in this photograph, you can see in the left side 1,000 size fire, in which the more than 90% of the perimeter is covered by olive groves. And in this way, this kind of land uses, like tree crops, can to a great extent contain fires, of course, with the collaboration of pressure mills. And in the right photograph, you can see, for example, how this olive tree grows can also limit the spread of large fires in our region. Next one, please. So, next one. So if we don't use this kind of tools, this kind of opportunities that involve the cooperation with the local land managers, I think we cannot mitigate the problem as a whole. So Mosaico is a long-term initiative that basically implements proactive governance in different territories, especially in northern Extremadura, near to Portugal. And basically, we try to remove all the barriers and facilitate the enables factors that facilitate the action of shepherds, forest managers, resin typers, farmers, and a large number of actors that are able to create with a very low or even zero cost, what we call productive fuel breaks in the landscape. So productive fuel breaks are simply areas with a reduced amount of fuel due to the exploitation of different resources. Could be resin, could be chestnut, could be wood, timber, goats, or whatever. So in this way, we try to engage all the local actors from the whole chain, value chain in the territory. Next one, please. Of course, this could be also considered a nature-based solution. In fact, we are using a certified label for all the products coming from these areas, from these productive fuel breaks that help to build this mosaic landscape that reduce and that increase the fire resilience in the territory. Next one, please. I have no time, but I just wanted to show in one slide the actual results from this project in northern Extremadura. You can see that only in 5 years we have been able to facilitate local landowners, farmers, foresters, shepherds, etc., to manage new almost 6,000 hectares of land, which are shown in the red patches on the map. And if you compare the areas that are managed by the project, if you compare it with the purple patches, which are the ones managed by the regional government and the forestry department, you can see that the capacity and the potential of local land managers to change the landscape in just a few years is much higher than the one by the local governments. And of course, this is a very cost-effective solution because the cost for the public for societies is very low. We just need to enable the local actors to act in the areas that we want to use for fire prevention. Next one, please. So to conclude, sorry for not having more time. What we want to offer to the audience and are basically we need to spread. We want to spread the solution to new territories. In fact, we are working now in Spain, in the Iberian Peninsula, and in the Canary Islands with this kind of solution. Also, these kind of solutions are, of course, for free available to companies that want to create value with the spread of this solution. We also want to inform public departments that this solution, of course, is a complement to other measures, but it is a kind of solution that we should implement because of the low cost and high efficiency, and because also this kind of landscape, proactive landscape management deliver a high number of social co-benefits that are also very interesting for the local territories. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. So, before opening the Q&A session, just to wish a quick recovery to Fernando, that will not be able to be here. Okay? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Fernando. So we have these 4 presentations regarding different approaches and methodologies for emphasizing sustainable practices, some innovations also in technologies, and also try to engage the community. So if you have any question for our speakers, please. We have the micro. So if you don't have, oh yeah, we have Tamaru. Well, can you try the question and if it's for the room or for online? Martin. Okay. Martin, we have a question here from one of our participants that actually it's also a winner for a demonstration test.
Sure.
Can you please, if you don't mind, he's joining us in the microphone.
I'm not quite sure I heard the question. If
No, the question is arriving.
Hi, Martin. Thank you so much for your presentation. Really interesting. My company actually has a very similar solution to yours, so I can understand the main points of your solution and the main pains, perhaps as well. But I was just curious, and I'd like to ask. Maybe this is very simple for you to answer, which is when you're thinking about static solutions, because you mentioned hotels and camping, so that's exactly where we are as well. I'm just wondering where you draw your main source for water and energy. Do you have an independent source, or they're connected to the main power lines and water sources? Thank you.
Right. Thank you for the question. Could I ask what company that is?
We're Pheasants.
Oh, right. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So we should definitely talk. Yeah. No. So the idea is definitely that we have a fully autonomous system. So with the software bit that you've seen before, and based on the data sets that we've gathered, we can do dimensioning of the systems through remote sensing. So we can estimate the volume of water that will be required to protect a certain asset. So that we can build the reservoir that is needed so that you're autonomous in terms of water. Again, the volumes would be relatively small, so probably smaller than what you're thinking now. And then same goes for the power. So depending on the location, we'd be definitely looking into getting this as autonomous as possible. Because critical infrastructure is suffering. I think that was also a topic for today. So you cannot really rely on any external power supply there. So fully autonomous.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you for the question.
Yes. We have another.
Question. You
Yes.
tell me, Martin, that the municipality of Lausanne accepts this capital challenge and we want to work with them.
Okay, so Martin, we have here also counselor from the Lausanne municipality, because in our meeting lab in Portugal, we have two areas, one in Val de Sousa, where we are now, in Fiel, and another one in Lausanne. And we have the honor to have here the counselor of the municipality of Lausanne, and they are willing to accept the challenges for your solutions to visit the village and try to have there also a test of the solution.
Right. Well, we'd love to. I mean, first of all, thank you to the community, because that is where we did the field tests with the University of Coimbra. And yeah, we'd be more than happy to talk about this. And if we can, set up a call, we'd be more than happy to showcase the technology to the community.
Okay, I am here also in the role of a living lab leader, or co-living leader of Lausanne, so we can schedule the meeting afterwards.
Yeah, with great pleasure. So we're planning on coming to Portugal anyway next year, probably in March. So yeah.
Thank you. So I'm glad. Thank you. I'm glad we arrived at the end of this panel. saying that it's nice to see that we are doing networking between the OEC participants and also the community and the seminars. So we are achieving our goal, I believe. Thank you. So now we'll have our last panel for the Open Innovation Call Solutions. We'll have Daniela Teixeira as chair of this table.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the session 4. Innovation relies on or enhancing nature-based solution. And my name is Daniela Teixeira from Collab Forest Fight, and I will share this session. So in this session, we have the presentations from André Mota, Daniela Sá, and Cindy Loureiro. So please join me here, please. And to start, I will welcome André Mota. So André is from Sim Viseu da Melações, and he will start this team right now. Thank you so much.
Hello, good afternoon. My name is André Mota. I'm from Sim Viseu da Melações, and I'm here to present the Life Landscape Fire project that we implemented in our region in Viseu da Melações. Just to do a quick resume to what led us to implement this project. Before life, we were and we still are one of the most heavily affected regions by wildfires. We did a study of all the wildfires that ignited inside our region between 1990s and 2017. That gave us the axles of the fire spread, the strategic management points that we thought that were the correct places to make the flow management, and the recurrency period of the old wildfires we had in our region. We introduced that in a platform, but we needed to find an alternative way to make the fuel management in our region that would be more effective, because we have the values of the traditionally made fuel management that with hand tools and power tools, around 1,000 euros per hectare. Using controlled fire, we had an estimated cost of 180 euros per hectare, and using the experience of Mosaic project from the University of Extremadura that you heard before, we had an estimated cost of 60 to 80 euros per hectare to do the fuel management within the region. So we applied to the Life Landscape Fire project, the LIFE program. We were the promoters. Our partners were the University of Extremadura, Junta de Extremadura, from the Mancomunidade from Sierra de São Pedro, from the region of Extremadura, all of them, and the Instituto Politécnico de Viseu, that would be one of our partners here in Portugal. The objective of this project was to try to implement new methodologies to the prevention of wildfires through the use of prescribed burning and the use of grazing to do that fuel management, so more effective way of doing fuel management. The regions where the project has been implemented is Viseu Fontes and two areas from the region of Extremadura. The area from Sierra São Pedro and from Sierra da Gata, Las Lourdes, near Pinho Franqueado. About the implemented actions of the project. First, we use the knowledge of the Universidade of Extremadura and their experience on the project to try to train our technicians from our municipalities in the planning of grazing activities and the training in pasture management. Within this pasture management, we implemented the installation of drinking facilities to the animals. Since the animals were doing extensive grazing, they have no boundaries, so they go to whatever they want. But to take them to the places where we have interest, the strategic management points, to do the grazing, we need to create the conditions so that they could do that grazing. So we implemented drinking points. Besides that, we trained our technicians in prescribed fire technicians. We trained 25 fire technicians, 75 burn operators, and 30 technicians in the use of simulation tools and fire analysts. The technicians were from several places, since the forestry technician technical offices, from the civil protection municipal civil protection services, professional firemen, people from the forest sappers, from the Guarda Nacional Republicana, from ICNF, and from the National Authority of Civil Protection. We trained burn operators and fire technicians. One photo from the 75 burn operators that we capacitated within our region. And we started doing the prescribed burning in several places. This is the first prescribed burning we did. It was in November 21, and in June 22, this was how the landscape looked after the prescribed burning. So there was a lot of regeneration already at that place. We kept on doing the prescribed burning. That's another example of another parcel we did. And on the day we got to that place to prepare the operation from the day after, that I'll show you after, we found something that we never found in that place, that it was goats doing grazing over there, because we never saw goats in that place. There were no conditions for them to use that. This burning was done 6 months before this picture was taken. On the day after, we did the prescribed burning of the parcel on site, with the participation of several entities. You can see the video from the burning operation itself, and some photos of the during and the after the prescribed burning of the parcel. About cost effectiveness, this was one of the best burns we did. I can tell you that we burned 15 hectares in 2 hours, and with the use of around 20 liters of fuel. So it's a little bit cheaper than using the traditional way of doing the fuel management with the tools. That using the estimated cost of 1,000 euros per hectare, it's a lot cheaper to do this way. Some of the examples of the pilots we did in several places, several municipalities, and this is the summary of the areas we executed during the project. During the training in prescribed fire, we did around 118 hectares of burning, and through the pilot actions, we did around 130 hectares. Right after the project was finished, the project was finished in the 30th of June of this year, there were some wildfires within our region. And those wildfires got to the parcels we managed with the use of the fire. This is one of the examples. We can see the controlled fire that has been done in January and February of 2023. During the controlled fire, This is the wildfire itself. It was on the 17th of August of this year. And these are the after wildfire, the post-wildfire images that we took. You can see right here on the left side, these are the parcels we managed. This one and this one here on the top. These are the places where the wildfires stopped. In one of the sides, they gave us the opportunity so the firemen could take on the fire on the head of the fire. So it didn't get to the parcel we managed, but on the other parcel, the fire went until the place we managed. I can tell you that the fire was evolving with the slope and in the direction of the wind. In the moment it got to the parcel that has been managed with wildfire, it stopped its progression and started enlarging to the side against the slope, and so it gave us the opportunity to fight the fire. This is one of the examples. This is a usual wildfire. In September, we had another wildfire that it's a different kind of wildfire. It's an extreme behavior wildfire. That it's another parcel that we did in a pilot. One other thing, in the fire of Colheira, the one before, that was a strategic management point. The last wildfire there, it was in 2017, and that was the usual behavior of the fire. So that's why we placed the parcel, or we managed that parcel over there. In this place, it's near, it's in Samacario, near Ameixiosa. This is some images of the controlled fire we did in February 2017, and this is after the wildfire, the images we took from the place. All that you see green is the area we burned. All the rest you can see the result. If you look in 360 degrees, you see everything is black in all directions. On the right side, you have Serra de Montemuro, Rio Paiva, or River Paiva, Cascavel. On the left side, you have São Macário and Serra de Rada, and everything was burned. On the left side, you can see a small herd of goats that went there in extensive grazing. This is the only green place in all that area. We only manage here the area we were authorized to manage. We asked to do the left side of the road. It was not allowed. We asked to do the rest of the slope until it hits one other area we managed 1 or 2 years before, and we are not allowed to do it. This is a Red Natura 2000 network area. Some other examples. Right on the left side of that parcel I've shown, you see that small patch of green is the access to Covas do Monte, São Pedro do Sul. It's an area that has been managed in October of 2021. You can see it's the only green area that we have in all that landscape. Some other examples where it's all these examples are outside the Life Landscape Fire project. We participated with our Forest Sappers Brigade, but on the left side here, it's a parcel we have done in 2022, and the other one on the right side, it's a parcel we have done in December of 2023. So these are some of the examples we have within our region of the areas managed with the controlled fire. In Spain, we have also had some demonstration actions, some pilots, and over there they have a thing that we don't have available here in Portugal, that is the virtual fencing. As Fernando Polito has said, they have done some part of their work in the northern part of the Extremadura region, near Pino Franqueado, and Pino Franqueado was also hit by a big wildfire in May of 23 that burned 11,000 hectares. Our pilots were over there. The Junta de Extremadura has built some shelters to place there the animals, and the animals did the extensive grazing around that area in two ways, in linear structures and all around the place. They pay for the eco services to the shepherds. They pay 102 euros per hectare if they are doing the extensive grazing, and if they are doing linear structures, they pay them 126 euros per hectare. This is the wildfire of Infranquial. The little green dots are the two pilot areas we have done within that region. The big green area in the middle is the place that is being managed with animals, with extensive grazing. The smaller one below is the area that has been managed with controlled fire. So this is right in the middle of the wildfire. About the socioeconomic impact of the project, one of the things, besides the production of knowledge in some areas, one of the things that we noticed is that these are areas that has been managed by us, that areas started being populated by animals. They start doing the fuel management within that place. You can see the cows that are over there. This one day we went there and we saw them. They are, all the cows are inside the parcels we have burned within that place. Some of in resume, we can say that the method we use in live landscape fire, by combining prescribed fire and extensive grazing at strategic management points, is more efficient, is cheaper, while at the same time is reducing the area of intervention. About the public awareness, and to finish it, just if you want to have some more information, I have some sites you can visit, and thank you.
Hello. Thank you so much for your presentation. Now we will move to the speeches. We will start with Daniela from Terra Farmer. So Daniela, the floor is yours.
Hi everyone, this is my first speech ever, so if this goes wrong, it's the first time, so sorry. So I'm Daniela, I'm a forest engineer and I work at the Farmers, and I'm here to present our post-wildfire emergency solution. So, of course, we've been talking about this all day, that fires are a constant in all our environments, and the wildfires are starting to become something bigger than they used to be and more frequent. And the problem is that nature takes decades sometimes to regenerate, to go back to its natural state. So our solution is basically going with the natural process, that is, plants will go back and give it a little push by helping restoring what is burned, by implementing first a mulching technique. So we will go and make sure that we can avoid the soil being eroded, because we know that after a fire, the first rains will most likely wash away all the remaining soil and will wash away the ashes to streams. So we want to avoid that and avoid all the ecological damages that the soil loss and the erosion has by using mulching just as a starter. Because we know that time is of essence in these situations. Fires happen in summer, later in summer sometimes, and winter when it comes washes away everything.
So by retaining the soil, it's such an essential first step that sometimes can't be done. So what we do, or want to do, is with the drone, we will go to these locations and spread mulching just as a starter to create the conditions so we can build from that. First, we tackle the soil. We need to retain the soil as a basis of everything, because then we will go with a seed mix that is developed by us, personalized to every situation and each location as the client wants. It will depend on we can tackle almost every condition that you have as a client. Like we have beehives to produce honey. We need to bring the pollinators back. They all died, they all left. Let's choose something to help them. We know that nature can't do everything. It has to involve every single one of its actors. It's not just the plants. We need also the animals and the microorganisms to come back. So what we do is when we produce this mix, we actually encapsulate the seeds with some kind of substrate to help those seeds that go in there, those pioneers, those legumes, those grains, to have something to start with, a Kickstarter, for it to germinate faster as soon as they find some kind of humidity. And with this, we can also correct something that is lost because of the fire, nutrients, organic matter, some kinds of fungi, for example. Something that I haven't told you when you were talking to me is also that we can put fungi in these mixes that we do. That's the new part. I had to left something for this speech. I couldn't tell you everything. So we can do as much as we can in this stage. With the mulching, we have the soil. With the plants, we'll have the green again. Is it supposed to stay there? No. As we call it, it's just an emergency solution. It's just to remedy everything in time for nature to go back to what it used to be, to restart its natural processes. So the idea of this mix is not to stay long term. Our species that are just there to fix nitrogen, to put nitrogen back on the soil, to hold on to the soil with the roots, and to create biomass so that we can jump to the other stage that is aerial reforestation. I mean, if you have the opportunity of seeing the big drone in there, in this case, we have soil, we have conditions created by our mix, and then we can go back with the trees and the bushes and the natural plants of the locations by using the seed pods that you saw. And the thing is that I think we've all tackled this during the day. Restoration has a lot of problems, especially here in Portugal. Is the situation I know the best. So let's look at the 3 images on the lower part. We can do it by hand, but if you do it by hand, you need people. If you need people, they can't be put at risk because they are humans. We don't want that. They are not capable of going with large weight. They have to carry it by foot. So it's not a large scale idea. You can go with tractors or other machines, but you're limited to the road. You can't go where the slopes are so high that you can't barely get a footing. And then you have aerial with helicopters, but the precision it's not that big, and it might just drop everything and it might not be in the right place. So that's where we come in. We go with the drones. Our drones can carry the loads. They have high precision, and they can go to the places, flying relatively low for drone standards, and go with the most precision that we can have to these locations and do the job easier, faster, and cheaper than the other solutions that are offered at the moment. So far we have 3 pilot projects. Unfortunately, one of them actually burned this year. So maybe the next part of that job will be a post-wildfire restoration. And the 2 cases we have there, one of them, of course, is iconic, is the Pinhal Leiria, burned in 2017. It was news all over Europe because it was an iconic landmark of Portugal. And we went there with both drones, the spreading drone and the spreading drone and the seedball drone to try to get back the native plants in there, because they were all gone after 5 years, 8 years. They were all gone. Most of the natives left, and the only thing there was sand and invasives. So we did our best to try to restore the ecosystem, and we will see the results. Hopefully they are good, because there's a lot to restore. And we also did a post-wildfire one, so this would be similar to the process we are proposing here. That was with the municipality of Nelas. Thankfully, it didn't burn this year, so this area was safe. And in this case, we spread just the seeds with the granules that you can see in our stand. And we are also expecting good results from there. And of course, we are hoping to get more numbers for you in the future, and with the future pilots that we are expecting. So I have nothing more to add, because I spoke with many of you today, and I'm open to any questions. So the last question I have for you is actually, do you want to plan the future with us? And with that question, I leave you. I'm sorry I got lost in the middle of my thoughts, but any questions, if I haven't answered them yet, you can come to me and feel free to ask them. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Daniela, for your first presentation ever. So next we will have Cindy Lorraine from Ashley, Agrarian Wolf Habitat Conservation Association. So.
Thank you, Daniela, and thank you, Foresight, for having us here today to share a little bit of our work, which is a little bit different than what has been presented here today. So our title today is Habitat Conservation Strategies Hand in Hand with Fire Prevention. So just a little bit of background. Ashley is a nonprofit organization that's focused on applying conservation measures that aid the conservation of the Barrier Wolf habitat and for its prey. Right. Our work serves many purposes, and our efforts are mainly or primarily channeled towards conservation goals, which inevitably are combined or linked to fire prevention. Obviously, in all of our project sites, we don't want them to burn like anything else, right? We don't want the landscape burn. So we're hoping that our efforts that are applied can effectively contribute to creating sites that are more resilient to fires, thus reducing impacts that may occur. Many of our strategies, which I'll be presenting next, are that we apply are related to vegetation clearing, normally overgrown vegetation in specific areas, which we believe can enhance resilience of those areas, whilst maintaining the conservation value or even increasing it. So I'm going to go through some of the strategies that we apply. Like I said, most of them are related to vegetation clearing. We do use a lot of different strategies, and we'll go through them really quickly. So here we have an example of what we can do under the power lines that use as fuel breaks. Since we try to keep the fuel load low, we decided to use these areas to create some feeding fields for game species. As you can see on the aerial photo on the left, you can see on the right the results of that fields that are. Another strategy that we apply are to broadleaf and conifer stands. existing stands actually that we clear on the understory that is overgrown. When we arrive at these sites, you barely can see. You could just like see the tip of the canopy of the trees, so that the shrubs are completely in contact with the canopy. So we need to reduce the fire risk here and reduce here the vegetation that's really overgrown. Some pruning, very seldom do we do the thinning. So this opens up areas for animals, for wildlife especially, and offers these trees better growing conditions. Please bear in mind that our focus on our work is for conservation, okay? So we're improving or enhancing better living conditions for wildlife, especially for the wolf and for its prey, all right? Another strategy that we apply, especially in the event, we have two situations here, which is trying to convert conifer stands to mixed species stands or pure broadleaf stands. The example here on the left, it was a lot that was burnt. It was a pine stand that was burnt down, and we waited for the natural regeneration to come in. And through enrichment planting, we added in some native broadleaf species, right, to create your mixed stands at the end. On the photo on the right, it's an existing conifer stand, and basically through enhancement planting, we added in some broadleaf native species here too. We usually use these tree shelters to protect the plants in the first couple of years from browsers, essentially, right? Another strategy is converting abandoned lands, and I have them here, to new mixed broadleaf stands. When I say abandoned lands, what we're saying is that, as you can see the photo on the left, I don't know if you can I don't know if I can point it out, but I have a pointer. Here. All right, here we go. This area here, well, you can see here, it's cleared on this side, right? So here we're talking about 5 hectares here, which were completely occupied with the broom, which is like over 2 meters high. We're talking about 2-3 meter high broom here in this area. All right, so this poses really high fire hazard to this area. And this is a protected area as well. So we decided to clear it completely. And now we have installed broadleafs to convert the occupation of the cover of this area. Right. Here's the example. Well, here you have it. Here you have like the size of the broom, the before and the after aspect. Right. So now we're just waiting for the trees to grow in, which will take its time. Another example, right? So here, the image here on the left, okay? This is also occupied, okay, well, is really covered with broom as well, the same kind of height, and some heather as well. All right, and then here, we tried to create some patches, right? So we didn't do a full clearing of the whole area, we did it through patches, and the end result is planting here, installing new stands. In this case, we have mixed conifer broadleaf stands, and some are just pure broadleaf stands with mixed species. Another one, which is very worrisome and ever more present topic, which is controlling invasive alien species, which is a major issue after an event of a wildfire. And this is precisely an area that has been currently affected by wildfires for more than 20 years. So this area was completely covered with active currents. In this case, with the silky acacia, which poses really high fire risk as well. And what we wanted to do here is disrupt the vegetation cover here. As you can see here, the photo on the right, and the result of the clearing of this vegetation here, the acacia. And here you can see the size of it, which practically comes up halfway to the tractor. So by clearing this area here, we're also creating an opportunity to open up areas that are unavailable to wildlife, because acacia makes up a very thick, dense cover that it's practically impenetrable by wildlife. So we're creating opportunities by changing this cover. And in this case, we actually converted it as well to, in some places, we converted it to broadleaf stand right here on this section here. And we have continuous monitoring to see how this actually evolves over time. And also this creates a patch in the landscape. And finally, sometimes we have to get a little bit creative in our solutions. They're not always straightforward, although they may seem to be, but not always. Because when we have here in Portugal, it's very humanized territory. We have a lot of free-range grazing animals, livestock, I should say, and we have to manage this livestock that is grazing and the fire risk as well. So here you can see in this picture, I don't know if you can make it out, but this is the whole plot is here. Right? So here we needed to clear vegetation to reach competition with the plants. At the same time, we wanted to reduce the fire hazard as well. So what we thought was to leave about 10 to 20 meter wide border around the area that was planted. So to avoid the animals entering this area, right? So we could reduce the browsing that was and grazing that was done by them. And here on the right, it's another form of reducing fuel load. It's also, this area will actually burn the 2016 wildfires in Aroca, the Cerro Plate fires. And after that fire, we saw that as an opportunity, and we it was actually a pine stand here. It was around 10 years old, so there's no natural regeneration occurred. So we took that opportunity and planted we planted broadleaf species here as well. And in order to control the fuel load, we're giving some protection to the plants installed, and we decided to clear 15-meter wide strips with intervals of 30 meters and gradually reducing fuel load in a 3-year period of time. So just to finish off, then we do not seek any type of economic gains with our work. Our aim is just to improve habitat conditions for the Iberian wolf and its prey. So since there are many other species that share this territory, including humans, a lot of activities going on, all benefit from our work. And if our interventions can actually contribute to making these territories more resilient, then it's a win for us and it's a win for all. Thank you very much. For any further questions, please see us at our workstation.
Thank you, Cindy. So we will have 20 minutes for questions, but please, someone have a question? I know that Andrea have a question, but okay, Paulo.
Andre, you showed some nice examples prescribed birding effectiveness. I wonder if was this the general pattern or there were failures as well?
From all the areas we worked on, there was only one parcel that has been burned. That parcel was on the bottom of the slope of the video I've shown. That is a parcel that has been done in 2021. And it's the one that I showed the picture on June of 2022, that was a lot of regeneration. So the load of fuel in that place in 24, it was already to be burned again. It has a lot of water in that place. So that from all the areas we managed with fire, it was the only failure, if you can call it that way, that we had. All the others, the behavior was the one I showed.
Thank you. So my question is to Daniela. So thank you for your interesting presentation. So you talked about restoration activities, management options. When you consider the implementation of those restoration options, do you somehow prioritize the areas in the wildfire perimeters where to go first, and how do you develop that restoration management schedule? Thank you.
Yeah. So in this case, when we have all the experience that we have, we need to go to the main owner or someone that is above. We work with the municipalities that know the owners and they're okay with it. Of course, the old Portuguese story of small lands, a lot of owners, it's a problem, but normally with the organizations, it's easier to go around with that. We can do a project in large scale, which is the good thing with drones. Right now we have 2 drones, but with a fleet of drones that we are expecting to have maybe next year, hopefully, we can do big areas in a few days, because in a day we can go with a lot of hectares. Something that by hand, by tractor, by other methods would be impossible. So the idea is just not to target only the periphery, only some specific areas, is do as much as we can. Of course, if we have the resources, because of course we need the materials. But hypothetically, with everything in our favor, we could do as much as we can, as long as we have the resources and the time, because we need flight conditions, we need to evaluate the site, because we are not just going there and dropping and leave it. We want our intervention to have some impact. So we want to go there, see what's there before, understanding what the local population is, because we also want to bring some benefits to them. And the example I can give you is the one we have with the pilot project in Nelas with the municipality. We had a meeting with them, and they told us, "Oh, we want to restore this area. It was burned last year." And we asked them, "Do you have any specific interest? Like, do you want us to put some specific plant or something like that?" And they said, "Oh, we have some produce honey." And of course, with the fire, the plants burned, and if you could put pollinator friendly. And they also had, what's it called in English? Small quail, Alacrotis rufa. They had that, and of course, with the fires, the little birds either died or they went away, as they naturally do. And they haven't come back yet, and that's a big in the market for the hunters in the area. They wanted the quail back, and they were starting to create some feeders on the trying to get them back. So what we do, we went with plants that we know that species want, that creates refuge for them, because it's not just feeding them. We want them to come back to their most close to their natural environment as possible, of course. But trying to bring them back, because they are part of the ecosystem. If we want that part to return to what it once was in less than a long time, we need to bring back all the actors as soon as we can. And so we try to play with that. So it's not only what do you want there and we'll put it there, it's not what do you need there, because it's not just put biomass, put mulch, put everything in there. We also need to understand what the area needs. Those animals that graze, they don't have anything, so we put it there to remedy the situation for the time being. So I just went full circle. But to answer the question, having all the conditions, we can do as much area as we can with the, of course, with the limitations and technical and stuff. But we will just go with the peripheries or some patches here and there. The idea would be do as much as we can, or it depending on the plan. We also talked about some papers have been published about restoration strikes. It's also possible. It depends on what and a lot of factors and what the client wants and what we can do, of course, and what's the best solution for each place. Because if it slopes, maybe we just do the entire thing. If it's plains, maybe just strikes. Every case is a case, and we tackle that individually. Every mix is personalized, and we try to be as close to the customer and the locals as we can.
We don't have time for more questions. But from there, no? Okay, so we don't have the time. So now we will move to the Atrio again, to our workstation, but please be here in 20 minutes to finish with the closure. I don't actually prompted. So thank you so much.
And I will ask Alípio Torre, as the chairman of this roundtable, to join us here. And he will ask to all the participants, the speaker, and the experts to join us also. So,
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. Let's start this roundtable. And first of all, I'd like to call Tessa here to the stage. I'll ask you for now to sit, and then we'll start with you talking. Okay. So Tessa Mar from Busporus. She's the director for science strategy, and she'll tell us a little bit about their experience deploying innovative financial solutions for projects, mainly in the United States. And I think it can be a very interesting perspective to bring in to the context of Portugal. I'll also like to call Ricardo Fernandes from the government of José to the stage. He's going to be one of our friends helping discuss the subject from his unique perspective. Also, Miguel Sotomayor from the Catholic University of Portugal will also bring his perspective, mainly from the finance side. Thank you very much. And finally, Cristina Machado Guimarães from Inesctec, bringing in the perspective from entrepreneurship and the tech side. Okay. So this panel has the goal or the expectation to work as a sieve, and has a seed of ideas for this new challenging perspective for a very old problem, which is the issue of financing activities, in this case, resilience related activities. In this sense, Tara is going to give the kickoff with her experience, and then our colleagues in the panel will help us with a unique perspective, being the local Portuguese financial reality, being the institutional and the political framework for this, as well as the more entrepreneurial perspective as well, which can also, we think, provide an interesting perspective of how to deploy or help to deploy this. In this sense, Tessa, if you do not mind, could you please tell us a little bit about Blue Forest and your very interesting projects?
Hi, everyone. Thank you all for being here. Thank you for having me. I'm Tessa. I'm the Director of Science at Blue Forest. I'm going to talk today a little bit about the work that we do bringing innovative financing to large-scale wildfire resilience projects. This is primarily in the Western U.S. I hope that what we are describing can kind of stimulate ideas for folks here, and just thinking about the best ways that we can spread and support this kind of knowledge, because there are a lot of similarities in this particular challenge, I think, worldwide. So the title of this is the co-benefits of landscape resilience, which is sort of the keystone part of our model that we use to leverage new financing for these projects. To start with some background, Blue Forest is a nonprofit or conservation finance organization, and we bring these sustainable financial solutions to ecosystem restoration and landscape resilience. There are some factoids about us, but we're fully remote. We work mostly in the US. I'm based in Italy. And we try to bring together stakeholders in any given landscape to help arrange the financing for these projects, which are very often, I'm sure everyone's familiar, they're underfunded, there are cash flow constraints, there are capacity problems. So that's what we're trying to tackle. We have been doing some work here in Portugal for maybe close to a year at this point. We've been partnering with the US Embassy and AGIF to kind of think about if there are ways that we can just at least lend some expertise to the situation here. And obviously now we're also connected through FireRes. And so if anyone has heard about those efforts with the US Science Fellow that was in the country recently, that's all kind of connected to this effort. So I want to just give a little bit of context for what we mean when I say that we're working in landscape resilience. For us, we are trying to make sure that we can get ahead of the wildfire problem. We're working in that before the fire or after to restore that resilience after a fire has blown through. So very similar to what we heard in the last session about nature-based solutions that can be deployed in an economic way across the landscape that are supporting communities and ecosystems. And so that's kind of the work that we focus on, is that nature-based solution space. We also consider ourselves, as I said, a conservation finance organization, which is kind of one of those words that you might hear and not know what that actually means. It's a really new field. We certainly have been, I think, one of the first in the US to deploy anything like it. And so I want to define it. We consider it to be the practice of raising new funding and financing to support ecosystems and communities. So these are tools in the financial world that we're used to. We're used to using loans and bonds to buy a house or finance an infrastructure project like a bridge. So we're trying to take those same tools and apply them to what we would consider our natural infrastructure, like forests, like landscapes. We can have many different sources of funding for these. We can have many different actual financial mechanisms that you would use, and you can work on many different scales. So we work across these sort of different areas, but I would say in particular, we are almost always working on the local, maybe the regional level, but we're really trying to make sure that specific landscapes and watersheds can be brought to a resilient state. There are 3 goals that we have that kind of address the challenges that I alluded to. The first is scaled projects. We need to be thinking about these across a whole landscape, not just piecemeal, because if you want your prescribed burns to have a meaningful impact, right? We saw how you can have one part of the landscape that didn't burn, but if you can scale that across the landscape, then you might be able to really make a meaningful difference in the mosaic landscape that you're going to end up with afterwards, in the ability of firefighters to manage and control that fire. So we're trying to get to a spatial scale that's meaningful. Second is we're trying to do it faster. I mean, this is an acute problem. I don't think anyone needs convincing that, any year that we can shave off of these projects is important. And then the last part that we focus on is capacity building. This might also be familiar. Even if you have all the money in the world, sometimes you don't have the people, you don't have the equipment, you don't have, all the other pieces of this puzzle that you need to go off and do this work. So the other part here that we're really focused on is providing the financial opportunities for communities to, buy new equipment, scale their operations, scale their small business that's focused on this restoration work. And in that way, we're also supporting jobs, job creation, community health. We talk about trying to build a restoration economy in the communities that we're working in. So again, communities and ecosystems. All right, to make this a little more tangible, I'll walk you through a flow of funds. And this is just one example of a model, but it is one that we use frequently. This is a model that we've deployed on kind of large swaths of public land. So we were at a bit of an advantage in the fact that there was only one land manager. They had projects. In this case, it was a US agency, the US Forest Service. They planned them, they'd gotten them through the environmental permitting process, and they didn't have the money to implement them. So what we were looking to do was say, okay, where is there value in this project that's not being leveraged? And how can we leverage that value? And so that's basically looking at the ecosystem services from that project. So what we were able to do was bring in investors who were able to front the money for the project and say, here's as much money as you could possibly need to get this project done. And it's available to you whenever you need it. So if you are trying, traditionally we've tried to pay for these projects with grant funding. Well, grant funding is hard, right? You have to go do the work and then you tell them I did the work. And then 6 months later, maybe the government grant gets back to you and repays you. That can be really challenging. So with investors, we kind of smooth over those cash flow constraints. And in our case, the investors are a combination of market rate and philanthropic investors. There are a lot of investors out there that want to be investing in ecologically sound projects. And the important thing about that is that this is a cheaper loan from these investors than you could possibly find at a bank or any other traditional institution. So we were looking at interest rates of about 2.5% on our first project. They're really low. So these investors are what we would think of as they want a low-risk project that's going to give a low but consistent return. So nobody's getting rich off this, if that is, needs to be said. So then that money passes into what we were calling a forest resilience bond, which is basically a bank account for the project. And whoever's implementing that project, this is the local company with their backhoes and their crews that are going to go out, they're going to do fuels reduction work, they're going to do prescribed burns on the landscape. They have that money available whenever they need it. So as you do that work, you have some restoration activities and those generate benefits. You're reducing the wildfire risk, you're protecting your water supply, and the groups that benefit are actually the ones to pay back this loan. That's these beneficiaries. So it's kind of like, I take out a loan to buy a house and I pay it back over the time period where I'm reaping the benefits of owning a house. The only difference is, in this case, the ones pulling on that money, the implementation partner, is a different entity from the one paying it back. But everyone's paying it back on the basis of, an evaluated ecosystem service. So in our case, those beneficiaries might be a utility company. Say they have infrastructure in an area that would be damaged in the case of a fire. So it's more valuable to pay up front rather than wait for that inevitable fire to happen. That's just one example. Benefits include, this is kind of everything that came up in the last session, I think. Wildfire risk reduction, biodiversity and carbon, healthy working lands, grazing, agriculture. These are all part of the suite of things that groups might pay for. And they kind of fall into three buckets. We can directly increase someone's revenue. We can lower someone's risk. So, this is a really big one in a wildfire-prone ecosystem. And we can support compliance and values, which includes, cultural resource protection, those cultural traditions that came up in one of the earlier sessions. So there are a whole host of reasons that groups might pay into these projects. To give one example, we did this in California, where we started with a really small project in the top of the watershed, and we scaled to a larger project in the lower part of the watershed. And the beneficiaries that we had in that project were the water agency. They knew that if there was a fire, they would be spending millions of dollars dredging their reservoir. So they said, okay, well, we'd rather pay you $1 million to get ahead of that problem. And we also had private corporations that were paying in on the basis of the water footprint, the water protected water supply of the projects. So this is kind of the model. We tried to start small and then scale to a bigger project because this is a new model. It makes people more comfortable if we can start with a lower stakes project. If anyone's reading this slide closely, the small project was 6,000 hectares. That's US scale. We have bigger landscapes and we have bigger fires. It's not about matching those numbers necessarily. And then just to close out, this is kind of the process that we go through. We explore areas, we try to find, projects that are necessary and sound and are supporting ecology and community. Then we start to think about the ecological benefits, the potential value streams, who that value is accruing to. And then we start to assess that. And we do that very collaboratively because that co-creation is important. The beneficiary is going to believe your analysis if you've walked them through, if they've bought into the way that you're analyzing those ecosystem services ahead of time. And then, we get into the governance and we get into the scaling of the project. But that's the bulk of our time is spent in those first three steps. So those are just some of the questions that we ask. Maybe it plants a seed of interest or insight for you. And if you have any questions, we would absolutely be happy to answer them. It's my contact info. Also, please reach out after today if something comes up.
Thank you, Tessa. So, as I said, the purpose is to bring in this interesting, different perspective to our context. And I would probably start by talking to someone that represents one of these scenarios, so one of these communities, and I will ask the director of the councils for the city hall to bring his perspective of how such concept could be conceived of or seen from the perspective of Portuguese legal, political, and community context.
Thank you for the invitation and for congratulations on the event. Congratulations to Tessa also for the presentation. I will start asking Tessa how crowdfunding, how funding is born, all the involvement with the investors born in this US situation.
So the investors are the easy part. Maybe not. Yes. Is this, okay, great. So we started out with connections to investors from philanthropic groups. So the original, even Blue Forest funding was originally a pitch to the Rockefeller Foundation. And they were like, okay, this is an interesting idea. We'll fund the organization. Nowadays, Blue Forest is not funded anymore by the Rockefeller Foundation, but through them, we were connecting with philanthropic investors. And so you absolutely have to start with the investors that are willing to take a risk on a new idea. And so that was enough to get us through that first project. I think we had one market rate investor on the first project. It was an insurance company who wanted to reduce overall risk to their portfolio. And we scaled up from there. If you were looking at the numbers, the first investment was $4 million. And I mean, I don't know if many investors, even if they're interested in this kind of work, no, investors are not interested in $4 million. The due diligence on that is not worth their time. They want 25, 50, $75 million investments. So you also have to find investors that could understand what the long-term vision for this was, that it's not going to just be $4 million, it's going to be, now we scale to 25 million, and we're going to continue to try to treat that whole watershed. So we're looking at overall probably 500, by the time we're done with it all. So that's, I think it's a challenge, but you have to find the innovators first, and once you demonstrate that it works, then you get a lot more interest.
That is the difference between Portugal and the US as a whole, because we have several difficulties as municipality of Lausanne. We have also a mountain area. We are from the center of Portugal. Serra da Lausanne is a network 2000 site that has potential ecological ecosystem greatness, and it's known in Portugal as a great site for nature. We have schist villages. We have an industry around the schist villages. The tourism, it's very, very strong, but it's local. It's the local. There are no natural villages. There are. Nowadays they are artificial. They are the investors that buy the houses, recuperate the houses and sell, but they don't live there anymore. We only have tourism in the weekdays and weekends. We have very, very strong. We have 2,000, 3,000 persons visiting one of the villages in the weekend. It's very attractive for nature tourism. But we have a problem that the landscape of the mountain of Lausanne is as the natural landscape award, national landscape award nowadays. But we have no management of the forest. forest that there are no management. We, as a municipality, with a national program of alteration of the land, we call it PRGP. With the sum of the properties of the owners of the land, we needed 3 years to identify the owners of the 85% of the owners of the land. We didn't know which, because they don't manage the land. This is a reality in Portugal. And besides that, we have also land registry, as I said, but there was one of the speakers that spoke about it. We don't have people in there. We don't have farmers. We don't have shepherds. We don't have anyone. We have the wolf, maybe, but not persons. And the only entity, or mainly only entity, that has a presence there is the public, is the ICNF, because we call it Baldius, it's a community area, and the municipality. Nobody has real intervention in the, because of some array of luck. Such area doesn't burn in the last 40 years. There are some other places in Lausanne that burned in 2017, but in the mountain area doesn't burn. But we have an alien invasive species that is attacking very much the nature wildlife and the native species. And with this program, we are trying. It's a program that is we are speaking about 1,000 hectares. We are trying to know the owners. We construct a plan, a management plan for the objective is not, could not be only the reduction of fire risk, because the owners of if you only present a management plan for the next 20 years for reduction of the owners don't care. They want to return. It's an area of conservation, mainly chestnut. It's a paradise on earth. I invite you to look. but the owners, if they don't see the return of their investment, only if the state invests for them, they don't invest in the land. And we are not speaking as normally. It's not small land, small parcels. There are big parcels, 100 hectares, etc. But they don't invest.
When you're talking about the issue of investment, you're focusing the investment mainly on the owners of that land. Directly from while we're talking about the external investors that are leveraged to do the actions, but the local ones, the benefit will then be translated
because we don't have water companies that see in the uphill we need to protect the slopes. We don't have that companies in Lausanne. I think in Portugal maybe some big companies they have social responsibility. They have all their own projects. They canalize the funds in the, but it doesn't reach the municipalities. The little they are big projects, important projects of course, but not reach the small communities. They are only for bigger screen time.
Actually, that's something interesting because yesterday in the field trip we were going to see an operation by SMIO that had a 32-hectare operation. On the other hand, at the same time, we discussed that the average size is 1 hectare. So for a landowner. So how do you see that in your model as being off, or is it something that maybe works around?
I mean, it's definitely more challenging, but we have worked around it. We actually recently launched our very first private land use project. And so I think there's a couple different directions I would look at. I would either say, is there a way, to manage for wildfire risk and also generate a return for the owners? And I think we saw many ways that we can combine productive working lands with ecosystem resilience. The other way you can think about it is, are there off-site investors, off-site beneficiaries? And as we've worked more and more with corporates, that has been really beneficial because they don't have to be located in an area. They don't even have to have any ties to that area. And if we can say, this is how much carbon you're protecting, or this is the volume of water that we are protecting from this project, they're interested, and they can give in smaller amounts too, which can be helpful when you have a smaller landscape, so.
Okay, so there's also the issue of the context and the mindset being present to allow the use of this mechanism and these tools as well as the aggregation. And I'll bring here the experience of Miguel Sotomayor. You have a background of looking at the financials of forestry and also novelty methodologies to capture funds like crowdfunding. So from your experience, the translation of these type of models and implementation in our context with these restrictions like the ones that we're talking about here, the structuring and our traditional view of financial models and operation, or the lack of, how do you see this being translated into our reality and being deployed? Or do you think it's not directly deployable as such?
Okay. Is it working? Yes. The first thing is, it depends, because if we're talking of this region here, where we have forest property very scattered and very small scale, and this is very hard to get to something that people would want. Of course, in the south of Portugal, this would be different, but at the same time, there is not the same need for funding. But okay, but I don't know if I'm answering your question, but I can tell you about the project I was involved in, trying to see to what extent an option of forest ecosystem service could be practical way for funding to enhance forest ecosystem services in this area. But what we found in the end, as one of the conclusions, it is very hard to convince for farmers that, and the possible stakeholders, that we can reach to a solution, especially because it's the forest property is very scarce and very small scale, and many people do not rely for their main income on that, so and not so sensitive. But if you don't mind, I don't know if I'm get your answer you were looking for, but can I ask you just one question, just to make sure I'm getting what your organization will do, and I'll give you an example. Let's suppose you are approached by a commission of common years of a particular common land area, partially forested here, let's suppose 1,500 acres, and they think they know all way to potentiate the flow of benefits for that area in a time horizon of, let's say, 50 years. Right. What sort of support the organization will be able to give them. I know one of the support you could give them is bridge between the need of funding and funders. Yes, this is, I think I understood that this is one of your roles. But beyond that, I suppose you are convinced that the flow of benefits to be generated is worthwhile for funders. But beyond that, what would you support them with?
Yeah, that's a great question to clarify. So we would look at what those benefits are, and we would look at as many possible benefits as we could think of, honestly. The example yesterday is like one investor or one beneficiary in this case is going in and saying, we can pay for this because we're gonna get a carbon benefit. Okay, that's great. If that works, great. But usually just one investor is very often not enough to cover the project. So we look as broadly as we can, and then we say, okay, maybe we think that there's a water benefit and we think we can go to a corporate entity and sort of sell them on this benefit. We'll approach them, we'll ask them, is this what you're interested in? And then if they say yes, we can work with them to assess, okay, how much is that water benefit? And we do that, some of that we can do in-house, some of that we work with academic partners. We are trying very much to make sure that every assessment we do is grounded in the best available science around that benefit. And then we try to go to that beneficiary and say, okay, well, if there was, give up 1,000 cubic meters of water, right? What's the value of that to you? How much would you pay for it? And very often the value of the project is a lot more to a potential beneficiary than you would actually need, especially in wildfire-prone areas. The cost of letting a catastrophic fire come through is almost always higher than prevention. So, it's a lot, if you're saying, hey, we think this wildfire would cost a utility company, $10 million if it happened, and we're only asking you to pay $1 million. It's an easier sell. So we do that whole kind of project development process with that land manager in this case, to figure out, who are these beneficiaries and can they come to the table? We also work to get the investors, to front the money. So there's two sides of this. There's the investors fronting this loan and there's the beneficiaries paying it back. We also might help with the implementation side. If this community says we can do the work, yeah, great, you can do the work, but maybe they don't have an entity. We need to go find an entity that has the ability to carry that work out. So we try to bring all these different stakeholders to the table and create a workable project. That's basically our role. Does that answer your question?
Yes. Let me just, yes, it's something that puzzles me because if you come here and you have background, very complex in your house network of institutions and companies and associations, let's say, but for you to be able to help that community, you need to understand how things work here, who are the beneficiaries, who represent the beneficiaries of the different. So this is a hard work. And what can you tell about your experience of another projects of the organization and your to know the local reality?
That's so important because we'll say this about our work in the US as well. We're never the local partner, even in the United States, because we're not based in these locations for the most part. The very first thing that we would do is look for a local group, kind of a champion of the work. We want to make sure that that group is, in this case, it sounds like maybe it would be the example you gave would be the landowners and the land managers who say, hey, we need help with this. But sometimes it's a nonprofit organization that has long been doing work in that watershed. Sometimes we work in one project with a county government. So counties in the US are sort of, the small area around a municipality. That county, 80% of the land in that county was owned by the federal government and was forested. The federal government did not have money to do appropriate forest management, and the county said, we're so worried about this. We have no control because we don't know the land, but it's our county, it's our communities that are going to burn. So that's where we were able to work with the county and the federal government to bring a project together. And then we also pull in, we want to make sure we're pulling in community. We're going to, in the US, we look to make sure we're working with tribes that are local to that area. We will look at local academic institutions and researchers who know that area. So in all regards, we're kind of trying to make sure that, one, we're pulling on information from the people who know the landscape the best. Two, if there's a lot of debate about a project and there's not a lot of local buy-in, we won't get involved. It's just, it doesn't make sense. So there are things, that's kind of the approach that we take always. And, I think in a Portuguese context, we would be here to offer the information we can, recognizing that, it needs to be tailored and led by the groups that need the help here.
Okay, so you mentioned the issue of buy-in, but that also almost brings the idea that you need to have someone spearheading the effort from the local side. So I think that perhaps one perspective that we could bring in here, we already have the city hall, but we could also look at, for example, the local business people or the local individual with an entrepreneurial spirit that could drive that. And that will be the perspective that I will ask Christina to bring about as one of the mechanisms we could use to spearhead the launch of these type of initiatives. I don't know if you have a different take on this, Christina.
Yes, I think I can, if I can summarize somehow what Tessa presented as some lessons in California in terms of benefits, I think the ecological ones are pretty obvious, well known and are not difficult to describe. And the economic benefits are too much centered sometimes, or in this presentation, in the revenue enhancement. And it's good, because at the end of the day, it's what people need to know. And the social part here, I think is a little bit, I believe it is a little linked with the circular bioeconomy principles that are in the compliance and values that you presented. Having this said, it's a matter of trust. Not trust in the vehicle itself, because it's important to trust in the vehicle itself, the mechanism and implementation partner. And as I understood, the implementation partner is a non-profit. It has to be a non-profit is my question, or you can have another source or type of implementation partner.
So we have worked with nonprofit implementation partners, tribal implementation partners, and local governments. Very often, those groups will actually act as the general manager for the project, and they will then subcontract to a local private company. So that's kind of how that flow usually works. So there's kind of trust in that entity themselves, and that implementation partner, by the way, is selected, the final say for that is always with the landowner. So it could also be the landowner themselves if they know, they have the resources.
Here in Portugal and basically in most of the countries in Europe, we have the small scale ownership, and that is not a problem, but it's an issue. And as such, the instrument is, I believe, for large scale restoration, but it is not a problem, it's again an issue. It has to be addressed, and it's the elephant in the room. And the main thing here is not only trust on the vehicle, it's trust in the partnerships and building partnerships accordingly. And one way of doing this is, as you told before, the common lands, and it's a good example of a partnership. But can they have access to this type of vehicles? That's our question. And we hope hope to do so. And for doing that, we need to look at some experience, to look at the best case scenarios, the worst case scenarios, and good examples, of course, and similar examples that can be implemented in our realities. And it's a matter of starting. But again, it's a matter of relationships and benefits and benefits also in the trust on the side of public and private partnerships. That is also an issue to be covered, I believe, in terms of getting more entrepreneurial consequences on these type of vehicles, let's say.
Thank you, Christina. I think one of the issues here that I will return back to the community, and I saw you doing like this to what Christina was saying, and because you deal with this very up close, do you see someone in your community with the ability to aggregate either the landowners or the potential beneficiaries, that in this case could be diverse? It was discussed here the waterways. Yesterday it was discussed the issue of carbon capture. So multiple types of benefits. Do you see one entity or a couple of entities that will be able to spearhead this?
In our case, in talking from my experience, it's the municipality is the entity that has respect from the community, has trust from the community, and normally I think that when it's a private thing, it's met with less trust, I think. And the municipality normally I don't. It's the best entity, local entity to entrust this partnership.
Thank you. I don't know if you want to have any other take on the financial aspect or its translation to the Portuguese reality, or you are satisfied in terms of, because I saw you taking lots of notes during the presentation. And before I close the session, because I was told that I need to behave, I will like.
I have an additional question is, most of the benefits that a new project can bring up are not marketable.
Okay.
And you said, and I agree, this is a way, so you could, one of the approach could be to contact the stakeholders benefiting from those benefits and see to what extent they are willing to pay for that, not be a public institution or regional government organization. But from your experience, what is the rate of success of these sort of projects when most of the benefits of the additional benefits from the project are non-marketable?
Yeah, so I guess we don't usually work with benefits that are marketable in the sense that we're not working with carbon credits that someone is going to turn around and sell on the market. But we're still helping all of these organizations meet some kind of internal goal. The first project that we did, we must have talked to probably 10 different entities across 10 different landscapes, and nobody was interested. It was like a success rate of 10%, right? Because it was unproven, and it was weird, and it was new, right? And now, trust, exactly, right? But by now, I would say probably close to 60% success rate. I mean, it's not perfect. We definitely have a lot of conversations and invest a lot of energy into some partnerships that don't ultimately pan out. But that's our goal. We're trying to find ways to help these projects move forward. So that's the short answer.
So thank you very much. Thank you, Tessa. Thank you, Miguel. Thank you, Ricardo. Thank you, Christina. So I hope this short conversation, because like I said, people are telling me that I need to shut up here. Help you see a different take on this issue, which is the issue of financing. All these different works that were presented throughout the entire day. This is a novel take, there are others. Please feel free to talk to Tessa. She is very enthusiastic about her ideas and the experiences they built and bring it to another country like Portugal. So do take this opportunity to get your ideas across with each other and see if this can spread for further and better solutions that we can see in our ecosystems. Thank you, everyone. I will now hand over back to Brigitte so that she does the closing session. I think it's up to you now. Thank you.
So we are at this stage, and before we have the closing session, I will take this moment for a special moment, because I would like to say that we have here my colleague Daniela, that she's been working with me almost 20 months, especially in our package 6, Fares, and she's moved on. So please, Daniela, come to join me. And it's a very, very thank you. So I wish that the inspiring work that we're doing together, that you can bring them to you for your and success. And also have thanks for all the Fares team and Forest Wise colleagues that are here and Isa, because I don't want to forget this part. So we'll have now our closing session. So I will ask to José Borges to join me. We are here for the closing session as Living Live Leaders of Portugal Living Live Leaders. So I will give the floor to José. Maybe you can sit. Yes, because they are here.
Okay, thank you all. So thanks again for to Brigitte and Forestwise and the team who cooperated in the organizing of the event. Thank you all. So this is about innovation and involving the community of Wi-Fi innovation, the living web. Why living web? Well, we as project team answered a call from the European Union. It lists a set of objectives, impact, and but we don't manage the landscape. We are not the ones who are making the decisions in the landscape. It's the forest managers, it's the forest owners, public, private. So of course, we need to be involved if we want to achieve those objectives and those impacts. There's no other way around. And it's very important to understand that what we are doing in the framework of a project like this is to provide information, because we are not going to make the actual decisions. We talk about optimization technology, optimize decision. I mean, that's an ostensible purpose, but it's not our true purpose. Our true purpose is to generate information that may help people who are there, who make decisions, make better decisions. And in order to get there, of course, we involve them since the start. And there's a whole process that starts with defining the questions, translating the questions and the general objective to something that's operational, that we may use, that people may use when making a decision whether to full treat now or 5 years from now, how to distribute in space the full treatment. So that's a key important issue, and leading labs participation, the community of Wi-Fi innovation is key for the success of the project. So this is an event, a very important event, because it fits and aligns with this strategy. And just a final note to talk about the financing mechanism and what we talked about here and why it was so important. Because from the knowledge that we have, if we want to design a unique landscape, we do need to get funding to provide support to forest owners to move in that direction. It takes time, it involves species conversions often, and from the information that we have generated, we know that that's costly, and we do need to check all the approaches and all the like tests, auction, further auctions. Everything is welcome in order to come up with an answer, and an answer that may be provided in the ground by the decision makers. So, thank you again for participating in this project. Your participation and your involvement is key to its success. And thanks again for organizing.
As Jose also said here, and during our journey today that we have reached the end, we have explored groundbreaking innovation, actionable insights, strategies, and enhancing and understanding and managing the welfare risks, from communication to technological approaches and advancements. And each section is aligned that positive change in wildfire resilience across all living labs and behind. So we are very thankful that we have been here today, especially for those who are not from Portugal. Thank you. We hope that it will be also an insightful trip for you, and also to the attendees and the community of fire innovation for the support since we started the FireRest. And FireRest is resilient in action. So we'll move on for Bulgaria. So we are invited for the innovation journey continues, and we hope that we see in Bulgaria. So we ask to our colleagues from Bulgaria that will be our hosts next year to join us.
Hello everyone, once again. Information from my colleagues, I guess. I'm going to show you a short movie, very short one, 10 minutes actually. It is for Kazanlak, the location where the next year event is going to be. You'll see the nature, you'll see the landscape, you'll see the building. And you see the traditions in Kazanlak in Bulgaria, and I hope next year we'll see once again each other and you like. И за един скъпоценен дар, даден отгоре. Май месец е. В ранна утрин, с разпукването на първите цветове, започва и розоверът. За казанлъчени, то е свещено действие. Повод за работа, но и за веселие и гордост. Традициите се съхраняват от векове. Всеки малък детайл е от значение.
Бялата риза е ръчно изработена от момата, а орнаментите по бродерията изразяват нейната неповторима душевност. Сукманът е в червен, празничен цвят, престилката зелена, на плахтите е изобразена птица. Всички символи прославят пролета и новото начало. Денят се пробужда от нежна момейска песен и омайващ аромат. Едва отворила очи, утрото се протягат от глъчката на ранобудните розоберачи. А когато първите слънчеви лъчи целунат земята, се разкрива истинското вълшебство на мястото, наречено Розова долина. силните рамене на Балкана се ражда една нежна и смирена форма на живот. Маслодайната роза, символ на България. Тя пленява всеки, който я доближи с аромата си и с безрезервна, всеотдайна любов. Толкова много цвят, толкова много красота, толкова много живот. Има причина да наричаме възбуханието на маслодайната българска роза божествено. Мистична е силата на това малко цвете. Като по чудо, около мощите иконите на светиите, от край време се разнася аромат на розово масло, дните на тяхното честване. Да, Творецът ни е дал този скъпоценен дар в най-съвършената му форма на нас, българите. Нека го използваме достойно и се грижим отговорно за него. И нека се учим да даваме красота, нежност, радост и живот, като тях, розите, а те винаги ще го правят за нас.
Sorry. I hope that you enjoyed this beautiful music at the end, because the culture of risk, it's also a way of resilience. So thank you again for being here today with us. And I hope that you can leave this room with a lot of key messages to your home. Okay? So thank you and see you soon again. uh,